Hello, folks. Welcome to a new Sox Machine podcast. I'm your host, Josh Nelson. This episode, of course, part of Foul Territory Network. And we are streaming live on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine on this Thursday night, August 13th, 2026, as we'll be recapping the Chicago White Sox having a tough series loss to the Cincinnati Reds. And hopefully this doesn't become a series that the White Sox regret later this season as the American League Central standings get much tighter. As the Detroit Tigers, they took care of business against the Cleveland Guardians as they won 2 out of 3. So your AL Central standings look like after this series loss for the White Sox, they're still in first place with a 62-58 record, but their lead in the division is now down to 2.5 games as they head to Detroit for 3 games this weekend. The Tigers are 60-61. The Minnesota Twins are still playing the Field of Dreams game against the Philadelphia Phillies right now as we are streaming live. They are currently losing to the Phillies, so the White Sox may gain a half game over the Twins. Cleveland continues to slip. They're 59-63, and the Royals are still in last place. We'll be previewing the Tigers series later in the show, but joining me is Sox Machine's beat reporter for the last time, James Fegan, and managing editor Jim Margos. Also for the, no, I'm kidding, not for the last time. We'll get to
What
that
happened?
later in the
A
show.
bloodless coup.
Thursday Night Massacre.
But let's start with the series recap. As Jim, it's a disappointment because on one hand, I really feel like we would be talking a lot about what Luis Castillo and Sean Burke did in this series. They were both tremendous, both got through 7 innings, which is a rare feat for the White Sox this season. Castillo was brilliant in his second start with the White Sox, his first at home, 7 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts. Sean Burke doing Sean Burke things, Jim. 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, only 1 earned run, and didn't walk anyone. But the White Sox end up losing this series to Cincinnati. And that's kind of a mind-boggling thing, especially what happened on Pope Hat Night and just how things really went sideways. Just a chaotic game on Thursday as the White Sox lost 9-8. And I wonder, this feels like a missed opportunity for the Chicago White Sox as they didn't win this series to strengthen their lead in the American League Central. Does this feel like a missed opportunity to you for the White Sox?
Sure, at least 2 out of 3. Then go to the finale, score 8 runs and not win. So there are a couple of games where if you isolate one fact, Sean Burke throwing 7 beautiful innings, White Sox scoring 8 runs and they lost both games, you'd think, that's naturally 2 games they should have won one way or another. And the way they lost it, just kind of a classic, I would say 2024, 2025 loss of just coming down to relief work and Brian Hudson suffering from what we call bummer luck of just, soft contact being placed perfectly against him and then snowballing, Grant Taylor not able to stanch the bleeding and then not being able to score a run in extra innings. Like it was a combination of failures that led to a 1-run loss that was characteristic of their 1-run luck last year and not so much this year. Obviously regression comes into play when you talk about 1-run games, and you don't want to build your entire success on winning by the smallest of margins because that can easily go belly up. But on the other hand, Luis Castillo responding with 7 innings, doing it again, basically, let's try it again. Let's try having a great start and having just enough offense or having a steady stream of offense, and it works. So if you're glass half empty, you can say, well, that was a game they can't get back. And you hope that they go to Detroit with less than a 3-game lead and they come back with the lead intact. Glass half full is it didn't kill them. It didn't crush them. They responded with a convincing victory the next day. And then you get to game 3, and that's more about Davis Martin and his specific problems and maybe an acknowledgement that it's something that they will have to work around or mitigate. But yeah, I would look at it more in terms of great that Burke started, and went 7 innings and threw so well. The way that Brian Hudson failed did not feel, maybe the lesson is you can go to somebody else besides Hudson because he doesn't miss as many bats if you want to bet for a cleaner inning. But ultimately, he pitched the way he should have pitched or normally did, and it just didn't work out. And the next day, they did it again, and they won. And I think that's probably if I would be inclined to look at it that way and treat game three as maybe the bigger problem to solve.
Yeah, you want to be a MLB manager, have this 3-run lead, give Hudson that runway, allows 3 straight hits. All right, we're in a little hot water. I'm going to bring in our best closer, and they cough up the lead. Like, that's the difficulty of being an MLB manager, especially as the games increase pressure wise and even going into the postseason. This is why they get scrutinized as far as relievers not being able to do their job when they have the type of leads that they have late in the games. But as the White Sox said a number of times in post game, that is baseball. So let's talk about what happened on Thursday. And James, what a wild day. You wrote about it on Sox Machine and how kind of a late notice to move up the first pitch of the game an hour early. But Davis Martin struggles again. He allowed 2 home runs in that first inning, and then he gets ejected. What happened to Davis Martin today?
Nothing good. You know, we kind of, I think the media is quick to, possibly because the fundamental insecurity of every reporter is being late on something. We tend to assume that if we get told something on short notice, that it's like, oh, why, how long do they know this? But they announced at 10 a.m. That they're moving the game up by an hour. But Venable later says like this was not discussed at all last night. This was something that only started talking like about an hour before like it became a public announcement. So meetings are getting shortened or condensed. The team doesn't take ground balls. Not that that became like a huge factor in the game, but just like kind of shows like things that got knocked off their normal preparation schedule. And Martin, who's already kind of pitching on 3 days rest with the idea that he like threw some innings inside. Uh, the day his start got washed out and kind of treated it like a long bullpen, so to speak, starting off that. And he's just like very, before he even like starts throwing anything to the backstop or before that becomes like what defines his day is, hanging slider, like 2 sliders that got hit out are just like absolutely middle. And you kind of see him in certainly in pitching that like clean second inning afterwards, like junking that from his arsenal. And the Reds kind of being not having a ton of left-handed weapons, but outside of De La Cruz, that's kind of a big thing for him to rub out from what he's using. And then you're just seeing like the command, like one, he's still kind of the 93, 94 band, the way he's been in the second half. But then like the command just like having these uncharacteristic misses that are way off, that kind of line up with what he's saying, that the blister on his middle finger developed in the middle of the second inning. And then he, obviously hits Sal Stewart in the helmet with a fastball after airmailing it, right before the previous pitch. And I think like I wound up being the pool reporter for Alan Porter, the home plate umpire, after the game. Initially, from like my perspective, it's like, well, one, you're seeing a miss from the backstop, and knowing Davis Martin, like, there's no way he's like. I think Davis Martin, like, if he got ordered to, or like it was some sort of like fight, like he'd stand up for his teammates. But Davis Martin is definitely not like a retaliate for pimping a home run type of dude. So like in talking to Porter, like that's their initial, the way that Stewart admired his home run, like put their antennas up a little bit for how he'd be received his next time up. So that was part of it. Um, and also like I understand like from his perspective after talking to him, like they kind of have to weigh every like all claims of like intentionally throwing get denied. So it's almost like a dime a dozen to them. Like particular cases like can only crack through so much. Uh, they were inclined to give Martin the benefit of the doubt off the first pitch. That was really, I think, at that point, the third pitch that went to that slipped to the backstop is the first one that buzzed somebody. That's why a warning wasn't issued after the first pitch, which is like what I think would have given like the cleanest operating procedure is like, all right, you threw one over his head, you gave a warning, then you hit him, now
Yeah.
you get warning, you get ejected. But it's kind of like they wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but the fact that the next one was immediately afterwards and an acceleration of the conflict, and also you literally see the team react, is what like triggered them all the way to ejection, which wasn't a hair trigger, it was something they discussed, but still like in talking to Porter, that was clearly what accelerated it to like, whoa, we got to do something. With also them having like a far more agnostic view of, oh, it's Davis Martin. He'd never do something like that we all have, that they can't really give that much credence to. But in turn, you have now 2 starts in a row that have ended really soon, and really just kind of, I mean, at this point, he's probably near 7 since the start of June ERA. It's just kind of like this escalating series of like him not getting the job done for reasons that are and aren't in his control, that are leading, like, as we're going, as we're waiting for Will Venable after the game, where it's like, are we asking if he's still in the rotation, or if like they kind of view that they need to pull him out, or there's some sort of struggles, or like how do they view where Martin's at right now?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it, like, all builds up to that point. There, like Venable said, like if he's healthy, he's going. That gave him room with the blister to be like, they said like he's got to get evaluated. That gives him a little bit of like, not narrative room, but like it buys them time to be like, hey, maybe we want to give him like a minimum stay to get this blister calmed down, while at the same time, like, hey, the results clearly aren't there for soldering through it. But even that, they already have a hole in the rotation. They could just put Fetty back in, obviously, seemingly, given that it was their first move out of the deadline to move him out of the rotation. One of their goals was to not do that. But then it kind of necessitates like, hey, are you buying where Shane Smith is at after his last start? Are you buying where Drew Thorpe is at after his last start? It's only the division race counting on it, so be sure. But I think it's kind of all just kind of pieced together towards, they're throwing a bullpen game to start a series that's for first place in Detroit, and they have to figure out what the rotation looks like, possibly in multiple slots afterwards. So, yeah, Thursday went 0-60 in some respects. Anyway, have luck with it this weekend. I think for all you guys to handle it.
Yeah, in August so far, in 3 starts, opposing batters are batting .412 against Davis Martin. His earned run average just in this month after 3 starts is above 14. So things are going south on Davis Martin. And I brought up the graphic before, and I'll bring it up again. In his last 7 starts, it's 28 and 2/3 innings. Again, one of those starts was washed out because of Mother Nature, but it is an earned run average above 8 with just 21 strikeouts and 10 walks. So let's try to talk about something positive, and that is Chase Meidroth. Meidroth is on a heater. In his last 30 games, he's batting .302 with a .395 on base percentage and slugging .519. He had another big series against Cincinnati, even though he missed a game because of his thumb injury. And believe it or not, when you look at his season stats now, Meidroth has improved to be batting .279 with a .356 on base percentage, slugging .418. His weighted runs created plus is 120. He now has 12 home runs this season with 49 RBIs, and his WAR is now above 3. Now, I may sound surprised in my voice, because I am a little bit surprised, because it felt like a month ago, Jim, I was really concerned about Chase Meidroth, the ebbs and flows of the season, and he was on the low point, and it was a big concern because he wasn't being that effective with runners in scoring position. But now that he's been on this scorcher, I wonder, is this sustainable for Chase Meidroth in this level of production? Because right now he's helping the offense in a big way.
It could be. Given that he doesn't have the biggest raw power, you might look a little bit askance at that particular number, like the slug, and say, yeah, maybe you don't want him chasing that too much. Like we saw earlier in the season, a lot of big swings, a lot of chasing, strikeout rate went up, and thought that that's not maybe how you want him to play. However, when you look at his minor league track record and what the White Sox were getting when they traded for him in the Garrett Crochet deal, like he had a history of making pitchers have to respect him, drawing a lot of walks because he was, maybe this is a career high in homers. Like he'd topped out at 9 in the minor leagues in the couple of years that he had full seasons, and he only hit 10 in college in San Diego. But like he had the ability to hit doubles, to have a little bit of slug in his game, and to draw walks. And so like his first year with the White Sox just wasn't posing that much of a threat, to where the plate discipline didn't really play up, and he's just more of an average glove first, bottom of the order type bats, can maybe bat lead off in the right situations, but is more of a platoon guy. But I think you're seeing like him wearing a couple of different hats over the course of the season in terms of what kind of hitter he wants to be, and having some success. And it almost feels like it's this last month or so, and hopefully over the second half will be kind of a culmination of everything he's learned along this journey of balancing plate discipline and pursuing power and greater A swings, and figuring out the equilibrium of knowing when he can go for it and when to pull back, and when to be able to try to be aggressive without losing concept of the strike zone. It's really come together. Like, it was weird when I was putting together the month in the box for July. I was like, oh, Chase Mydroth was the best player. And I looked at it, like, yeah, he was a very good player. Like, he was on a very good pace. He wasn't posting the kind of crazy power numbers that were populating the player of the month for the first half, when he had Murakami going nuts and Colson going nuts. But in terms of the overall skill set and the way he brought the strikeouts down without losing the impact of his contact, and then you throw in the defense as well, like, that's a very good player.
Yeah, that's why with future construction ideas, because in a couple of months, I can't believe in a couple of months, we're going to be talking about the offseason plan projects on Sox Machine. I felt like if we had this conversation in June, Jim, about offseason plans, that we could see a lot of White Sox fans ready to transition from Chase Mydroth to moving Sam Antonacci back to his natural position at second base. But with the way that Mydroth has really stepped up offensively, now he's above 3 WAR as a second baseman. That's rare. Like, in the American League, you don't see a lot of 3 WAR second basemen. And I just feel like, obviously, if Chase Mydroth is slugging .519 over the course of 162 games, Jim, he's definitely an all-star second baseman for the White Sox. So I don't know if .519 slugging is sustainable. I'd love it to be. I love him for it to be a 900 OPS. But at the same time, it is a 30-game sample size that he is a 900 OPS type of offensive player. And maybe I'm being convinced after this scorcher that old Josh back in June was an idiot and he was wrong. Chase Mydroth is the type of guy that the White Sox really do enjoy having in the clubhouse. And he's just going to have these highs and lows in the season. And when he's in his high, I mean, he's very effective, especially the top of the order.
Well, it's impressive he's doing it with a not 100% risk too. Yeah. So like, he's doing, he doesn't have to maximize his entire like physical well-being in order to do it. I will say that you mentioned that the off-season plan projects would have involved trading him, and they still might. But I think the conversation around trading him is different. It's more about, well, how many infielders do you have, and which one provides the best return while also preserving what the White Sox have in the lineup. You could have that conversation about Mydroth. You could have that conversation about Sam Antonacci. As Rock Chalowski kind of comes into focus and understanding what his timetable might be and what he has to offer, there's some parts to move around, and some areas of great need for the White Sox. So, you might talk about trading Mydroth, but not in the way like you got to get rid of him because other players are better. It's more about, oh, he's a good player, but the White Sox have a few good players, and they just might have to give up something to get something.
Well, we're going to talk about another infielder after a quick break and word from our sponsors, as far as the White Sox now head to Detroit to take on the Tigers at a very critical, I mean, every series is pretty critical for the White Sox moving forward. But this is an opportunity for Detroit to shrink the lead, or a great opportunity for the White Sox to extend their lead in the American League Central. We'll talk about Colson Montgomery. We'll talk about what the pitching probable, or at least the pitching idea, could be on Friday for the Chicago White Sox. Next on the Sox Machine podcast.
Let's talk Fabletics, shall we? They have apparel for every season. We're wearing it as we talk about it. It's soft, it's comfortable. I wear it on the show sometimes on FT. What else do you love about it, Kratz?
Well, I have it on right now, and I'm all about quality. But you know what? You know how good your clothes are when you're a parent and your kids keep stealing all of it. My daughter stole the sweatshirt. My son stole one of my T-shirts. So it's got to be nice looking.
And if it gets a little bit chillier, then it's layering season, and they've got layers for the fall. Shop now at fabletics.com/foul to get 70 to 80% off everything when you sign up as a new VIP. Take a quick style quiz and be sure to select foul when prompted to unlock this offer. This is a limited time offer, so do not wait. Again, that's fabletics.com/FOUL for 70 to 80% off everything as a new VIP.
Howard, my dad was T-boned by a utility vehicle and is in surgery now. What should I do?
I'm sorry to hear about that. It's really great that you're getting him the medical care and treatment that he needs right now. These are 3 important things that I think you need to know. Injuries are unexpected and turn lives upside down. I'm Howard Ankin, and I'm here to help. If you or a loved one have been hurt at work or in a car, truck, or rideshare accident, call 312-6-million. Injury law made personal. That's Ankin Law.
Now the Chicago White Sox head to Detroit, and the Detroit Tigers are on a roll. They are 60-61 this season. They won their last game against Cleveland. They ended up winning that series against the Guardians. The Tigers are 7-3 in their last 10 games. They are 32-28 at Comerica Park. The White Sox and Tigers are 3-3 against each other, as both teams have swept their home series to at least start the season against one another. So your pitching probables for this series Friday night, it'll be Jackson Jobe for the Detroit Tigers against, well, we're going to talk about that later. Big question mark for the Chicago White Sox. Saturday, this is an afternoon tilt. Troy Melton is a projected starter for Detroit. Anthony Kay will take the ball for the Chicago White Sox. And then on Sunday, it'll be Drew Anderson for the Detroit Tigers and Sean Burke for the Chicago White Sox. So let's start with what could happen on Friday. So James, what are we looking at here for the White Sox? Is this a true bullpen game and we won't get any clarity until a couple hours beforehand? Or did you hear anything on Thursday at the ballpark?
Said it's Sean Newcomb, and it is going to be a bullpen day. I clarified if it was an opener or a bullpen day. It's bullpen day is what they're going with. It doesn't preclude them from making some sort of roster move addition or whatever if they feel like it's necessary. But they weren't tagging it as like this is an opener. Bullpen day.
All right.
Sean Newcomb bullpen day has produced decent efforts in Detroit in the past, so maybe that's what they're banking on.
Yeah, so this would be like what? Sean Newcomb. I don't know how many more innings Trevor Richards can throw, Jim.
Infinite.
Don't ask. Like, as long as you don't ask, you'll just keep getting them.
I guess we can give Hagen Smith. Could the White Sox get Hagen Smith a couple more innings?
If the first one goes well.
Yeah,
true. I'm just now Urquidy was it Urquidy added to the 40-man roster?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. It just seems odd, Jim, to have a dedicated bullpen game in August. Like, this is where I think in the comments section on Sox Machine, there's going to be a lot of grief when this game starts of how can the White Sox, after the trade deadline, be in this position where they have to go to a bullpen game in the midst of playing 16 straight days where they have a game, right? Like, this is probably a good time to call somebody up that's in your 40-man roster other than just having the bullpen.
Yeah, they have options. Thorpe is out of play right now because he's not on schedule, but like Jonathan Cannon has been pitching well enough to where if he needed somebody to try to go 4 or 5 innings, he wouldn't be the worst choice in the world. Like Urquidy's been pitching decently. He pitched for Detroit. I think most recently in the majors as a starter, he pitched for a little bit for Pittsburgh. But Tigers have seen him be not an option, so they might kind of scoff seeing Urquidy pitch for the White Sox, but he's thrown well enough and he's got some veteran know-how to where like you could maybe get by. But it does feel like a little bit like they broke something, or they fixed something that wasn't broke when it came to relegating Eric Fetty to the bullpen when he was working okay as a starter with opener assist. And I think they were trying to be proactive and say, well, this is going to work forever. It kind of compromises the rest of our staff when we have to use them. We feel like Noah Schultz might be the better bet for 5 innings from here on out, perhaps. And it just kind of threw everything into a little bit of a, maybe not chaos because they still have all the arms available to the thought, but just it's been bad for Fetty and kind of thrown him out of rhythm when he was pitching okay. And we've seen Martin get worse, so maybe Fetty hasn't been the biggest problem after all. So it does feel a little bit turbulent and ripe for second guessing should this continue. Now, should Newcomb throw 3 scoreless innings like he did before, and the White Sox just got by with effectively a bullpen game not long ago because of the rain delay when Hagan had to go to and such. They've been able to figure it out before, so they can easily get past this, and it's just much ado about nothing. But they did, I think, invite just a little bit of scrutiny by maybe not removing the pitcher who seemed the most vulnerable, but instead like placing a little bit too much faith in guys who maybe weren't entirely proven in their current states.
It is, I guess, reassuring that Anthony Kay and Sean Burke, who have been both performing well, are back to back on Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully the bullpen is not needed as much on Saturday and Sunday for the White Sox, but we'll see how Friday goes for the White Sox. The offense really will need to pick up the slack. And one of those guys offensively, the White Sox would love to get going. And this is kind of a follow-up on our previous conversation that we had in our last episode about Colson Montgomery, James. As you wrote in the pregame notes, the White Sox have already dropped Montgomery down in the order. Against Cincinnati, 1 for 12 in the 3 games. He struck out 4 times. The numbers are not pretty, as we talked about in our last episode, since early June. Does this drop in the order feel permanent for Colson Montgomery until, I don't know, I guess how much life does he need to show before the White Sox feel comfortable putting him back in the middle of the order?
Is any spot in Will Venable's batting order permanent for anyone?
Munetaka Murakami batting second.
Yeah, but if like we woke up tomorrow and he's batting cleanup, like no one would be like, I can't believe he did this.
Yeah, true. A good point.
Madness has overtaken him. No, it's not supposed to be permanent. It is what it looks like. It's like a take pressure off him, but I think we've seen people like slide up and down the order accordingly for how they're hitting, and I think Colson could really a game or two or a series certainly looking like himself gets back into their good graces, if only because like kind of trying to get a lot of your big boppers going at this point. Miguel Vargas has, I think, been managing a bit better, but it certainly has been cold since the break. Benintendi's the hot streak he had a touch early in the season has certainly leveled off at this point. Grichuk is being serviceable, but over the fence power has kind of been lacking for someone who can get pretty level in his swing at times. And you certainly don't have Teal, who they thought would be going to be like one of their 3 best hitters all year long. So I don't think there's like a big wall. Certainly don't have Braden maximized yet to what they think he could be. I don't think there's this big wall of like, he's doing your job for you. You can't get it back with Colson Montgomery batting cleanup. So he's kind of the guy who obviously produces in bunches from what he's doing. They're having him do things like he's trying to get loaded a little bit earlier, starting to get coiling a bit earlier, just so he can be on time of the pitcher and make better decisions and chase less. But they really preach like he's this long levered guy, and his operation he needs to get to like that point of tension a bit earlier, so when he like makes a decision to swing that he's ready and he's not like kind of rushing his path and like looping under the ball and popping things up that he thinks he can drive. Certainly swings before the 9th inning qualified, but if he's really rolling, he's probably not as under that hanger that he got a hold of in the 9th inning just on Thursday. So he's, as far as like ceiling, and certainly with the power production he has and the fact that this has become a team that's built around slug and he's a big provider of it. Yeah, I think that getting him right, one, doesn't take many swings before he gives impact, and 2 is something that like a lot of runway for, hey, put us on your back, big fella, right now if you can get it going. But it's obviously been a while now before we've seen it really consistent.
Yeah, his last 2 series, Colson Montgomery is 3 for 23 with 11 strikeouts. It's just not a lot of balls put into play. Like that's the type of struggle, and it's a little painful to watch.
He did avoid striking out though on Thursday, so that was, and he put a good swing on. It looked like he was challenging the Craft Cave in possible for like Montgomery heroics out of nowhere. So
yep,
there's hope. He at least provided a glimmer of something. I just want to go back to Urquidy. I want to go back to Urquidy. He is on the 40-man real quick.
He is.
yeah, he was in a trade after a DFA, so he inherited the 40-man status
Okay.
from Pittsburgh. I confused him briefly with Eric Haas, who was signed off a release and not added to the 40-man.
And Haas has just been released, right?
Yeah, and been released. Yeah, so he came and went, but yeah, he was off a true release. He was never added. He showed up to Charlotte at the same time. I talked to both of them, basically on the same day. But yeah, so conflated their statuses a little bit. Urquidy is on the 40-man.
And also a correction. I said that my jaw hurt his thumb. No, it was a wrist that he's been dealing with. That hasn't slowed him down. But in this next 6 games for the White Sox, Jim, on this quote unquote road trip, because 3 of them are going to be at Wrigley Field, so at least they get to go home. When I look at these 6 games, and they're 4 games above 500, the very pessimist within the White Sox fan base can say, well, this is where they drop below 500. This is where the long losing streak happens. But they haven't lost more than 4 games in a row this season. So I'm optimistic. They picked up their play in May against the Cubs, and I know the Chicago Cubs are playing fantastic baseball. I know Detroit has been playing really good baseball. Is these next 6 games make or break time for the White Sox? Again, it is tough back-to-back series, but with White Sox fans stressing a little bit with what happened against Cincinnati, is that going to carry over to the team?
I wouldn't say it's make or break. Obviously, when you have head-to-head matchups, you can break yourself with them to a certain extent. It's so easy to, they could leave Detroit and be in second place because it's only 2.5 game margin. So theoretically, you could look back at the end of the season or even in late September and say, well, that was 3 games, especially, if they have a sweep where they lose games they should have won. Yeah, then you can look back at and say that's the season definitely took a turn there, and maybe with a little bit of different luck or a little bit of different execution, the White Sox could still be in it. So, it's make or break in that sense, or at least they're inclined to make. I would say they're incentivized to do it. So yeah, I will support the thesis in that regard. But I think given the state of the Central, given the state of the American League, given how every team that looks like they found something tends to lose it. I guess, maybe if you're not, the Rays are the exception, and the Rays have had that stretch as well, but it seems like they've been able to bury, the downswing that they had. Everybody else, I think you can't necessarily look too far, like series at a time or game at a time, however you want to say it. It is a cliche, but I think when you have the American League Central being like the most central possible, then you can't really say make or break at this point in a true sense, just because, after this series, there's still 34 games left or something like that. So after this 2 series stretch. So yeah, that's too many games for any team to feel confident, no matter how well they did over a 6 game stretch.
And they get 4 more games at home against Detroit in September. So I can understand some White Sox fans feeling a bit anxious, especially knowing how well Detroit's been playing and how well the Cubs have been playing. I'm still confident they can figure out a way to go 3-3 in these next 6 games and to still be 4 games above 500 and having a much needed off day. No, not an off day. The 1 game against the Atlanta Braves, the makeup game, before the New York Mets come into town and the Texas Rangers. I'm still hopeful. Come September, the White Sox are still in the lead in the American League Central. I'm still predicting the White Sox are going to win this division. But it does feel like, this series is a big one, especially I think this series means more, James, to Detroit, because they're going to continue riding this momentum with the narrative that look at what the Tigers are doing without Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize. If they're going to make this comeback a reality, I really feel like this is Detroit's golden opportunity, because this is the last time they have the White Sox in Comerica for the rest of the season.
I feel like if it's bigger for them, it's by like matters of like small degrees. I mean, like all series at this point are important, but we're talking about a team that is the boogeyman now after a 6-22 May and like trading away the best pitcher in the world, and Casey Mize is alongside it. I don't think we have a great handle on what means is curtains for Detroit. We
Okay,
probably
that's
would have
fair.
triggered it a few more times already if we were in control of that. Just like taking that lesson along. One, I don't think let's assume they're going to lose all 6, or is this a real thing to be afraid of, is necessarily the way I'd start the discussion. But it by that same token, it's not. It's certainly an important series. It's certainly vital down the stretch. It's certainly an opportunity to get separation, or just hold, or just count down the clock by holding the ball and holding serve and not giving up your lead. But it's not the end of the world. We're not quite there yet. They've been hotter than this, and maybe can get right down the stretch offensively if they can get Vargas and Colson going by the end of the stretch. Like, it's another series. It's a big series. They're all important. It's still August. I don't think we can knock anyone out of the playoffs yet, other than the Kansas City Royals.
For Kansas City. It's been a tough season for the Royals, but we'll be recapping this series on the next episode of the Sox Machine podcast. Jim Margulis and I will have that on Sunday night, and also preview the big series, at least in the city of Chicago, between the White Sox and the Cubs. The Cubs are starting to run down the Milwaukee Brewers a little bit here, as the Brewers got swept by San Diego, and the Cubs won their series against the Nationals. So the Cubs are inching closer to Milwaukee. We're going to take one more break for a word from our sponsors, but coming up next, we do have some Sox Machine news to share with everybody, and we'll be talking about that after a word from our sponsors.
This is that time of year, AJ. It is baseball's time to shine, and it is SeatGeek's time to shine with MLB tickets and finding the best pricing, seating, and games that are even sold out available on SeatGeek.
Absolutely. If you want to go to the biggest matchups coming up, we have Yankees Cubs coming up. There's Yankees Red Sox. It means stuff again. There's some big moments that are coming up here, and as the pennant chases really heat up, go to SeatGeek and find those green tickets with the best deals and get yourself out to an MLB game.
Yeah, and they're straightforward with you. They will actually put a red dot next to a ticket that they don't feel is your best look. Green dot means very good. Code for you. It's Territory 10. 10% off your next set of MLB tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off MLB tickets when you use the promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later.
Welcome back to the Sox Machine podcast, and this is a little bit of bittersweet news. Not a little bit, a lot bittersweet news.
It sucks, Josh.
This is our last segment with James Fegan, as we are very excited for him, as he has this wonderful opportunity. But James, I figured that this would be a good time for you to tell the audience what is happening.
Yeah, I did get told, like, you should announce it by now if you haven't already, by my new employer. So thanks for the help, but I'm got hired to be the White Sox beat writer for the Chicago Sun-Times, which is a fun opportunity, and obviously great to continue to cover the White Sox. I really love covering the org, and this audience, since I grew up around here, and I grew up a White Sox fan. I've thrown those shackles away for the sake of the news, but it's still very nice to like be in this territory and be in this community. So I don't want to cry in a live stream full of baseball viewers, but I think Sox Machine one is great, and people should continue reading it, because I know I will. I get all my ideas and steal them from here, and then ask players about it. Then it wasn't even stealing for 2.5 years, and that was great. But also, I obviously feel like you guys gave me a great opportunity to kind of continue my career at a point where I thought it was probably ending or surely ending. And so it feels wrong to be like, oh, this is, a great opportunity, and, stuff that has its own benefits, but like, it's not I view this as like there are things I'm excited about being with the Sun Times, but none of them are like, oh man, I can't wait to not have to do the Sox Machine stuff anymore, or like I wanted to do things differently. I got to do things like exactly the way I wanted it here, in a way that, like, if anything, joining like a big institution that I respect is going to change, just because I want to like do the job I'm being asked to do, but the kind of creative freedom and the way we kind of like followed our nose here to write things that we're interested in, like I think it's a really unique experience in my life, and I was really happy to do it, and I'm really thankful that I got to do it here. Um, yeah, it's bittersweet for me as well, even if it's like, something I've decided to do and think will be good for me long term. It's definitely hard. So yeah, this was a blast. Thank you, and I thank you for being chill about it. 'Cause,
Well, we're really happy for you, man.
thanks.
I guess I'll start and I'll let Jim have the last note. We did
The
a
last
lot of
line.
changes in the background to make this happen at Sox Machine because one, selfishly, it was going to improve as far as our content. And having someone in the clubhouse has given us access and angles to stories and be able to have these types of conversations. We can get in the nitty gritty instead of just analyzing what we are watching and hearing and be able to break down from Baseball Savant. So you brought a lot to us, James, and we are very appreciative. But also on the flip side, man, we can't lose you. Like the White Sox community, we can't lose you, James. Your inquisitive mind, always wanting to search and ask the questions of like how things work. You're the only one that does that in the beat. Everybody's so worried about deadlines and just getting out 750 word stories so they could fit into a newspaper or get on a website. So that's why we did what we did. And to everyone that watches and listens to the podcast and to all those that subscribe to SoxMachine.com, huge thank you guys for allowing us to embark on this journey with James. And I guess, James, I just want to say thank you so much for giving us a shot at Sox Machine so you could be able to continue covering the White Sox. And I know next year's a big year for you because then you'll be able to qualify to vote for the Hall of Fame as you get to that 10th year. Because I know you want that pressure. But James, again, thank you so much for giving us that chance.
I ain't even thought of that in a while. My wife texted
I
me
wanted
and
that
reminded me
traffic.
to thank my listeners, or thank the readers and listeners. She initially said thank my fans, but she knew I'd be squishy about saying that I have fans. So readers and listeners, fellow scholars, thank you so much for your support during this time.
Yeah, I will say that, in terms of being chill about it, did take me about 48 hours to be like, just stop grumbling about it, especially in the middle of a pennant race. Feels like, now sometimes cares. So now they're getting serious about it after covering 121 losses and 300 lost seasons in a row. It's like, okay, now it's time to get serious. Now we need to hire James Fegan. Like, that I grumbled about that a bit, but I only would have been sour if it's like, oh, I got this opportunity to cover the Athletics in Sacramento. I got to take it. Then I'd be like, what the hell's that about? But the fact that you're in Chicago covering the White Sox, because, that was the big driver of us. I waited 3 hours to email you after I got laid off from the Athletic. I was going to give you a couple days. Like, no, I gotta do it. Just want to let you know that, like, if there's any way that we could help sustain your career covering the White Sox, that we would try to make it happen because we do value your work so much. It could have lasted, well, it shouldn't happen at all. It could have lasted like 2.5 weeks or 2.5 months. So the fact that it lasted 2.5 years, I think we're extraordinarily lucky to have your coverage on the site. As somebody who's enjoyed your work from afar for so long, like it was great to see it up close, see the process, see how you approach stories, the questions you ask, the things you seek out as you're reporting a story, the things you leave out, or things that you kind of realize are kind of extraneous or cutouts. I learned a lot from that. I look forward to applying it to my work. I will say that I don't enjoy necessarily the idea of you working under word and inch restrictions for the first time. When you really go into a rabbit hole and, like the ability to dork out with Ryan Fuller or Brian Bannister and under like the heading or like the lead of, for the next 2,500 words, I'm going to be dorking out about hitting or the farm system and just being very transparent about your interests and really seeing your interests in the topic resonate throughout those words. And you might reference the word count in a self-deprecating tweet promoting the story, but it doesn't read like that because you're interested in that and your fascination with the topic is contagious, and readers pick up on that and want to read more about what you want to know about. So I hope that you're able to do that. Like, I will miss the opportunity for you to drop into the first person about a guy you've been covering for 7 years, and to kind of share a story, or say like, he was like this when he was in the sweaty tunnel of an A-ball ballpark that no longer exists. Being able to kind of use that voice and convey your experience. So even if you have to work under stricter newspaper style, I hope you're still able to convey that, because that, I think, is what makes your reporting special. It's just kind of the deep knowledge and ties you have these players, and the way that you've kind of retained all these details about what they've done. So that's the advice I would give to you as you go into your next venture. I wish you the best of luck, and I'm not saying that in the sense that it's the best of luck because we're never going to cross roads again or collaborate or this is goodbye. But in this industry, as we all know, you need luck, and you deserve the best of it. And I want to make sure that when you win the Spink Award, we are included. We do not get left off the plaque because we're not like we're a website or whatever. We are, every plaque, Jim Thome, Ken Griffey Jr., they have White Sox on it. When you're in that particular area of the Hall of Fame and Museum, I want to see Sox Machine there.
Well, I'll agree to this clause. I don't think we're ever going to hit, but you got it for sure. Speaking of the process, I think if you had to listen to 50 texts about me grumbling at the GM meetings about how much I hate Vegas, and then I'm like, I'm going to cover the A's. What's going on in his life? Is he fleeing the state?
Oh man,
yeah, you love that dry heat.
we grumbling about being able to see like the marquee that is telling me like what hour Carrot Top is on, and then what hour it turns into a strip club at the inside theater of the Luxor. And then I was like, that's where I'm going to go live now. Moving my family west.
So James, for the listeners, when can they expect your first published piece for the Sun Times?
I start on Tuesday. Assuming I hit my deadlines, I guess Tuesday night. I'll be kind of shadowing on Monday the Cubs Sox series to kind of see more about the workflow. I mean, I have worked there before, so I guess I should be able to figure out quickly. But just second game of the Cubs Sox series, I'll be there, and then obviously there's a little hiccups getting started that we're going through, but certainly down the stretch in September, I'm going to be at every road series, so it should be pretty important, and I'll be trying to turn stuff up on the road for what seems like the most crucial games we've seen the White Sox play in 5 years. So could be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun.
Those travel budgets.
Unlimited.
Take full advantage. Yeah. As far as you know.
Golden taxi picking me up from Cleveland's airport.
Yeah, a little bit of, I guess one peek behind the scenes is when it came to the travel and trying to figure out exactly how much travel to do, that's a headache you no longer have to worry about in your position. Like, those are separate departments, and that's his reason as much as any for somebody who gets as much out of road coverage as you do to take this opportunity to run with it.
Final expenses on, cheesy sandwiches I eat after games at 1 o'clock in the morning. That will be personally harrowing, but otherwise.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, James. And again, thank you for everything at Sox Machine. And again, podcast listeners and those that are watching this, you'll be able to read James over at the Chicago Sun-Times starting on August 18th. Great time to start with the White Sox and the Cubs. And then, of course, that homestand that starts with the Atlanta Braves coming in to play for that makeup game, and the New York Mets. So can't wait to quote you and hyperlink stuff that you write about on the Chicago Sun-Times. But James, again, thank you for everything.
Thank you, sincerely. And everyone out there in Radio Land.
And that will do it for this episode of the Sox Machine podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you just discovered the Sox Machine podcast and you want the audio version, you can listen to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. If you are watching this, maybe for the first time, we do a lot of videos at Sox Machine. Check them out at youtube.com/Sox Machine. We already exceeded over 3,200 subscribers. So thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so you are notified when we do have upcoming live streams such as this. You can follow us on social media. We're on all the platforms at Sox Machine. I guess you can continue following James on social media. He's at JR Fegan. You can follow me at SoxMachine_Josh. We will have more site news of what we're going to be doing at SoxMachine.com as we're coming up with plans right now, and you can help out with those plans by becoming a Sox Machine subscriber. Go to SoxMachine.com/products and sign up. Right now, our $5 award tier, I believe, is just 52 cents at the moment. Instead of the 53 cents that's on the screen, as the White Sox winning percentage dips a little bit. After that first month, it's just $5 a month. We have spots open in our Veterans Committee, which we're going to be leaning on our VC, especially for the rest of this season, how we want to cover it, and also going into the off season of what happens if there's a lockout. We really lean on our VCs to give us their advice and insight of how we should be covering the White Sox. If you are interested in joining the Sox Machine VC, you can acquire within at, again, SoxMachine.com/products. Sox Machine Podcast is a production of SoxMachine.com. You're for all things Chicago White Sox baseball and part of the Foul Territory Network. Alongside Jim Margulis and for the last time, James Fegan. I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for listening and watching.